Absolutely horrible position to deal with, and I find especially in competition people become really reluctant to open this closed guard. You kind of get stuck here, right? Especially if like they're up on points and you're just like, oh fuck, there's only 15 seconds until the end of the match. I'm just going to hold on to them, or even a minute to go. It's a hard position. Just watching the most recent world titles, there was a match that was quite close on points, and the guy just like locked him up in closed guard for the last minute and just held him. I didn't worry about attacking. He's just like, well, I got him here now. I'm up on points. I'm just going to hold and keep that lead. Okay, so being able to open this guard is really, really important, both from like competition perspective, but just a pure grappling perspective. Okay, like I said, in my experience, standing openings are the better options, right? So those are the options that I'm going to start to prioritize. Now, when I'm going to go to stand, before we just practice the basic mechanic of just standing to 2 feet. Now we're going to add into it a little bit, because we need to understand oftentimes what's going to happen in our partner when they do go to stand. If I go to stand and I have no control over my partner's hands, he has freedom to attack so many different things. If I stand up now, he could even just basic attacks here. He goes for my arms. He could just like take my ankles, just double ankle sweep, Brad. Yeah. Okay. He's got all these different things that are available to him. So what I need to do is I need to start to take away his tools, right? His tools usually are done with his hands. So if I can start to control, at the very least, one of my partner's arms, a lot of his attacks are now going to become harder. Now in the gi version of this technique would be you grab the sleeve and you'd start to draw it through. I'm going to look to control 2-on-1 on this wrist. So once I'm here, I'm going to take 2 hands, I'm going to control his wrist. Now, easier said than done. You're going to be here, you're going to be hand fighting, boom, until eventually I can get it. I'm going to grab his wrist and I'm going to try to drive his hand into his stomach. That's now going to allow me to keep good control over this. From here, now I'm going to stand. Now the legs that I stand first is whichever side of the arm that I've trapped. So I've trapped his right arm, his left arm here, it's my right side. I'm going to step my right leg up first. So I lean my weight in, same as before, and I'm going to look to step my leg out. Remember, don't step it too close, because when you go to lean, you're going to fall over to that side, and that's potentially a sweep for him. I need to make sure I'm stepping my foot wide enough so when I transfer weight, I'm not falling over myself. So I lean, 1. Pivot on that bottom leg. I'm trying to bring my toes out the side, because now I've got a strong direction that I can drive up to 2 feet. So I drive up and I stand. Now I'm going to let go of his arm and I'm going to look to keep a hold with this wrist. Probably won't be able to keep it for long, but I'm going to have just enough time for me to now put pressure on my partner's leg. All I'm doing now is I'm driving this leg down to start to put pressure on his legs. There's already pressure because I'm stood up. He's already having to hold himself up here, so it's already an uphill battle. Now I'm just going to drive this down as I take my hips back. Now that the guard's open, we've got lots of different things that I can do. One basic option is I can start to look to staple his leg, get chest to chest, and I can look to control and pass. Right, but let's just focus on the openings for now. So once again, I'm inside his guard, right? But here, there's that hand fight. Eventually I get 2-on-1. 2 of my hands are covering his wrist. I'm pinning that to his stomach. Now I'm gonna look to lean all of my weight into this knee. I step this leg up, making sure it's wide enough for me to transfer weight. So I lean, step, pivot, active toes. I'm driving up, I stand tall. I let go, so I can now drive pressure on his leg as I stick my bum back to open the guard. From here, boom. I can start to come down, staple, and look to control and pass. All right, so one last time. Got this hand fight, get 2-on-1. I pin the wrist to the stomach. I'm now gonna look to lean weight into my knee, step my foot up. I transfer weight as I look to pivot this leg, drive up to 2 feet. Now that I'm here, I can get good posture. I can focus on framing here. If you ever find that your partner's hand does get free in this process, guys, try to get a leg back and out of the way, because they will try to sweep you. But otherwise, keep good control, frame, open that guard, then I can come down and get chest to chest and pass. Are we happy with that one, team? Any questions? Let's give it a go. In for that first opening, it's kind of just your standard close guard opening from like standing. What we're gonna look to do now, I do have a name for, we call this the coconut splitter. Right, you'll see why it's called that in a second. Okay, so when I go to do this one, I can do this a couple of different ways. I think when I was first taught, I remember like framing underneath, right, the armpits here, and you start to like tripod up onto your feet and position your legs. It's a fine way to go about it, and I'll still do it that way sometimes, but you can also do it from the standing opening that we did. I'm going to teach the way I was taught, but if you want to like kind of do it from that same stand up that we did before, that's fine as well. So what's going to happen is I'm going to start, right, framing up my partner's arms. Now that could be my hands underneath with my thumbs on top, or it could be me cupping my partner's biceps, right? Common position, especially like if you're trying to be a little bit more conservative and you're not trying to be as tall in your guts, sometimes you'll be down low here, trying to clamp your partner's hips, making it a little bit harder for him to move and start to set certain attacks. What I'm going to look to do is once I've set one of these grips, right, I'm going to keep my head low and I'm going to start to like come up to my toes, and I'm going to like bring my hips up nice and high. So I'm coming up to here and I'm going to drive up. And what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to get one of my knees in the middle of my partner's bottom. Now that I'm here, all I'm going to do is I'm going to start walking my hands back towards my partner's ribs as I sit back on this knee and bring the knee up the middle. Right, I'll let you use your imagination while we call that the coconut splitter. Right, okay. Once I'm here, the knee's in the middle. Sometimes your partner's legs will still be crossed. I actually don't mind too much because I can still start to cut across either way. But if the legs do open, that's a bonus for me. If I want them open, I continue to frame off as I drive this knee up the middle. It'll open them up one way or the other. Here. Now that I'm here, I've got my passing options. I can look to create that staple like we did before, get chest to chest, cross face, underhook, and now I'm in my passing position. Okay, so I'll do it that way one more time and then I will show it there. Start to TP up. When I go to TP, what's common is my partner will like walk their legs up. If you remember that armbar drill where we climb the legs up the back, right? Quite common that they'll start to do that because they want to get some sort of attacking guard. So as I go down low, he's going to walk his legs up. That actually makes it even easier for me. So now my knees in the middle, when I go to sit back and bring my hands here, I pop that guard open. Right? Now that the guard's open, I can pass my knees, or I can start to look to pass in standing positions if I prefer standing passes. Okay, so I'm going to show it that way one more time. Low, here, I TP up, he climbs his legs up high. One knee in the middle, and what I'm not doing is I'm not kind of just dropping in the spot, I'm sitting backwards. Knee spears through the gap. Hands, push and I pop. Okay, the other way, right, here, 1, 2, in fact, let me control that arm first. 1, 2, knee in the middle, hands to the hips. Same thing, it's just we're doing it in a slightly different way. All right, so one more time on that one. Come inside his guard, control that arm, same stand up. Here, knee comes to the middle, right? So I kind of want my shin lined up with his butt crack. Hands come to the hips now as I take a knee to split that guard open, all right? Happy? Coconut splitter. All right, let's give it a go. Probably in the last couple years. It's a little bit tricky balance-wise. So those that struggle with the balance, you might struggle a little bit with this one, but I find it is a very strong opening if you can keep that balance right. I call it the chair set opening. Okay, I can't actually remember how I picked it up exactly, but I remember I started doing it one day and I was like, oh, this works. I kept using it. So let's stick with that first stand-up that we did because that's the one that we're confident with. Last technique, I shouldn't have shown two because then people kind of mixing up aspects of the first one with the second one and going like back and forth between, making this funny hybrid. I'm just going to stick with the first stand-up. So I'm going to control the arm. I'm now going to look to stand up to my feet. Now that I'm here, I bring my feet together, right? And what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to get both my knees hooked into my partner's butt cheeks. Now this is the balance part, ready? I'm now going to look to sit back, right, to start to put pressure on my partner's legs. Now, Brad's legs opened quite quickly then, but it's not always the case. Sometimes he's stubborn, be a little bit more stubborn on this one. All right, when I go to stand, I sit here and it's this funny little counterbalance here, right? And I'll hang out here, right? This is shit for Brad. He doesn't like this, right? And I'll like stay here. Whole time, I'm now starting to put pressure on his hips. Once there's pressure and the guard's open, I'll step. Now I can start to get into my different types of passes from here. Okay, it's an opening that's very strong because of that counterbalance. Right, I'm positioning my knee right under his hips and I'm sitting back. Right, so it's a struggle for him to hold that guard. Right, he's more inclined to open his guard from there. Right, and like something to be said also with these guard openings, guys, is I'm opening it against his own desires. Like, he doesn't want to open his guard. But it is also about just as common that he will open his guard for me. A lot of his attacks involve him opening his legs and attacking, right? It's just when you've got people that are being stubborn, especially like I said, if it's competition, if they're up on points, right, and they really don't want to let go of this position, well, then I need ways to force it open so I can start to make movement and start to create openings for myself, okay? That being said, he might open his guard quick. That first rep, right, wasn't because I'm very good, right? Oh, maybe a little bit so, right? But, right, it's more so because, well, it's natural for him to open his guard. There's pressure there. He wants to open up so he can get into his attacks, okay? But then that also serves my role. Right, now I can start to set my attacks as well. So once again, I control the arm, 2-on-1. I frame, I'm gonna transfer my weight. So weight goes into my knee so I can step this leg up. Here. Now I can drop, same thing. But now I bring my legs together and I'm trying to position my knees right under his arse cheek. Now I can start to I can let go of this if I want to, or I can keep it there. It doesn't really matter too much as long as I'm putting downward pressure on him. Now I start to sit here. You're gonna hang out here. It's horrible for Brad. I can feel his ankle slipping already. And now I can start to open and get into my passes, okay? The tricky part is the balance, because if you sit too far back, this happens. Which you don't want, okay? It's finding that balance point, right? So if anyone was good at wall sit, right, you might be good at this, right? Unfortunately for me, I'm not very good, right? So we go here, knees in, right under the arse cheeks. Hit that counterbalance. That puts a lot of strain here. Now if I need to, if he's still holding on, just a little bit of downward pressure, split my legs once it's open. Now I can get into my passing sequences. Happy? Give it a go.